The return of debtors' prisons. With Americans still up to their eyeballs in debt, debt collectors are going to great lengths to collect their money, and they are invoking little-known laws in some states that actually allow them to put out arrest warrants for people who owe money. Jeff Mackey, from our colleague from Breakout, what, is this a good idea? Should we throw people in jail who owe money?
We need more Dickensian type of policies out there. Maybe orphanages making mainstream again, home for the mentally ill. This is nuts, obviously, but it illustrates a trend in societal acrimony, us versus them, kind of top to bottom. Everyone's opposed to everyone else, and you don't need that much separation between the classes. You know, you have lawyers. This basically has it all. You got a legal system, a society run amok, and everyone in debt. That's kind of your triple crown of misery right there, and it unfortunately is an example of where we are right now as a society.
And you talk about acrimony. I wrote about this morning. Unbelievable explosion of comments. Some people saying, as you did, that it's outrageous. I think it's outrageous, and I should underscore that. Corporations default all the time. You don't send the senior executives to jail because they didn't pay their debts. You want to get into that game of you don't pay your debt, you go to jail? Talk about a chilling effect on the economy. I mean, it's completely barbaric.
But let me take the other side just because I don't get enough hate mail already. If you're a business, a small business, you've hired a debt collector specifically to play hardball because you have outstanding bills due. You've got a family. You can't make your payments because people have stiffed you on their tab. What are you going to do? You keep sending them letters. You send the debt collectors there. They don't have assets to gather. I don't know how you get out of this jam other than just wide-scale debt forgiveness, because you got to do something to try to collect that. You can't be a viable business, not in this economy, and just let these folks slide. Prison, not the answer. I mean, it's obviously that's lunacy. I mean, it's along lines of sticking a gun in their face. Nonetheless, you have to come up with some sort of systemic ability to actually collect these debts.
If the person is unable to pay and unable to be likely to pay, the answer is bankruptcy. And the debts get written off. And you know what? Tough. If you're sitting there, some idiot lent the person money. They couldn't pay it back. You know what? That's the risk of the game. That's why you get paid for your money.
If they didn't want me to steal their television, they would have locked their door defense. I mean, it's someone's a deadbeat on that side, too. You see it in housing. You know, it takes two people being dishonest to do a liar's loan, for example. It takes someone to lie to the bank, and it takes the bank to be a bunch of idiots trying to profit off this guy. There's plenty of enemies here. It's hard to say which side's the good guys and the bad guys, other than this outcome being just the end result of a moronic process.
Black Friday is looking brighter as 152 million shoppers are expected to swarm stores, some opening late Thanksgiving evening in search of bargains on everything from flat-screen TVs to iPhones to handbags. Thousands lined up outside Herald Square in Midtown Manhattan, including some Occupy Wall Street protesters picketing against consumerism. And there are reports of an unruly shopper opening pepper spray on other customers at a Walmart store in L.A. But aside from an isolated incident or two, the mood overall appears to be shop till you drop. Our own Jerome Martis is out in Roosevelt Field Mall on New York's Long Island surveying the crowds and seeing how the consumers are feeling. So, Jerome, how is it this morning and how many bargains do you see out there?
There's a lot of bargains, and the mall traffic is significantly strong. I was even talking to these shoppers, and they were telling me that one of them is unemployed and went to Best Buy by midnight to buy a laptop. And his friends were saying that although they're unemployed and consumers have little money, they still have credit cards to spend.
So consumers are out in force. The parking lots are full, the stores are full. They're not worried about the economy?
Absolutely not. Even though this shopper was unemployed, he said that he needed a laptop to look for jobs, and his friend was like, well, they might not have money, but they definitely have the credit cards, and that's not stopping them to spend. So the sentiment here in the mall is very good. The traffic is very strong. The deals are very strong, especially at the teen retailers, which is a healthy sign. At Thomson Reuters, we consider the teen index a good proxy of discretionary spending. So the fact that the teen retailers are packed is telling us that parents are feeling more comfortable about extending themselves.
It is a time of despair for hundreds of thousands of farmers. At this cotton auction, prices are low and they keep falling. Bhagwan Rao has only received a few £100s for his crop. He tells me he's taking on a lot of debt just to buy next year's seeds. Across India, farmers are struggling to keep up with a country driving forwards at a rapid pace. Kamala Surtam is now a widow. Her husband is one of many farmers who've given up and committed suicide.
Our husbands commit suicide out of desperation, and the widows have to bear the burden of feeding and clothing and educating the children and living this hard life. Suicides have to be stopped, otherwise we will all be widows out here.
A few miles away in another village, and the cremation of another suicide farmer is taking place. It is a different widow, but a familiar story. More than 250,000 farmers have killed themselves in the last 16 years in India. That's one every 30 minutes. It is the largest wave of recorded suicides in history. The problems facing India's farmers are complex, but there are simple answers. Global trade has driven down prices, and farmers who've moved away from food to cash crops like cotton are suffering. This is where the cotton is brought after it's been picked from the fields. Now, this produce is being taken away to factories where it will be made into clothing. Much of that clothing, of course, will be exported to Western markets. But due to record low prices, the farmers are only getting, on average, about £300 to £350 a year for their entire season's work. And after they've bought new seeds, pesticides and fertilizers for next year's crops, it leaves barely enough to survive. The prospect of getting away from a hand-to-mouth lifestyle is seductive, but it's also deadly. So this is the cotton that he harvested to take to market before he died. Rauban shows me his nephew's entire harvest. A day after picking this, he killed himself by drinking pesticides. He tells me his relative had borrowed money for hybrid cotton seeds, but they were unsuitable for the climate. Outside, his wife clutches a photo. It was taken just after they were married. She'll now have to pay back the moneylenders and bring up their children on her own. India has one of the fastest growing economies in the world, but away from the cities there are few signs of progress. The number of suicides, activists say, is a symptom of a wider problem. The government is leaving the old India of the countryside to die. Alex Rossi, Sky News, Maharashtra.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Friday, November 25th, 2011, and I'm Darko. My website is ggnonline.com, that's ggnonline.com, and on YouTube, ddarko2012. Alright, so you just saw that video there. The sheeple attacking the malls there with money that they don't even have, and then you saw the propaganda piece where writers are saying, no, there's just a few isolated incidences, right? Where people were basically about to run over a man in a wheelchair in that one video there, and then pepper spraying children and stuff like that. Just an isolated incident. Go out with your credit cards and spend and do what you got to do, right? And then, of course, you have people protesting right now, protesting consumerism, which is, I guess, a good thing, but at the same time, they're going down to anti-capitalist or anti-whatever, and so then that's another rabbit hole that they're going down into. And then you had the Indians, right? And you had the people basically protesting to Occupy Wall Street and getting brutalized while people are out shopping and stuff like that and buying their turkeys and that. But the thing is what? The suicides in India. We all know what that's coming from. It's from the GMO seeds. It's Monsanto. And they didn't even fucking mention it. Excuse me, pardon my French, but they didn't even mention that. And if they did it very subtly, and they didn't stress it at all. They just said that it's the new India. Well, the new India is what? Rothschilds owning farmland and Monsanto running it. And these farmers don't even have enough money to buy more seeds, these hybrid seeds that don't even fit the environment, right? That's what they said. It didn't even fit the environment, so they're not even that good. And then they have to, once they're done using them, buy more from them. That's the scam. And then they can't keep up. They can't feed their families. They can no longer provide for their families. So they lose honor and they kill themselves. And then the women say, well, we got to stop the suicides. Well, how do you stop the suicides? And then they'll come in and say, oh, we got to get these programs and suicide prevention and stuff like that and hotline. No, what's going on is the new India, and that is the decimation of the male and the father and all that out of that picture. And then you'll have all these females, and don't worry, you have artificial insemination, you'll have robots to pick on the field, so everything will be okay. Fitch downgrades Portugal rating to junk status. Europeans plan Christmas without the trimmings. Peruvians protest U.S. gold mine project. Portugal austerity's protest turn violent. Italy collapse would be the end of the euro. This is GGN. Thank you.